Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is, of course, the Screen Watching Podcast, your favourite podcast dedicated to the worlds of TV, streaming, and movies. My name is Dan Barrett, and joined with me, as always, not as always, he was gone for like a year and a half, but he's back. He's back. Is he ever? It was like 3 weeks, I don't know. Anyway, folks, his name's Simon Foster. Did I say that? No, Simon Foster, that's his name. That name again is Simon Foster.
Exactly right.
On the podcast this week, we've got some big uns, we've got some doozies. Simon's going to take a look at the film that is probably going to be one of the big 2 or 3 box office earners of this 2025. It's called Wicked for Good. Is it wicked? Is it for? Is it good? We're going to find out all 3 boxes whether they're ticked. I'm going to talk about a TV show which technically came out last week, but I've only seen it since we pressed the stop button on the recording of this podcast. And I'm saying it, I'm putting it out here in my opening intro. This is one of my favorite shows of the year. Folks, it's called Last Samurai Standing. It is really effing good, and I'm going to tell you why. A couple of other things we've watched during the week. We'll mention those at some point through the podcast. Usually at the back end, that's how the format works. Simon's going to finally get around to the documentary that I should have reviewed while he was away. It's called John Candy, I Like Me. And Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. That is a movie that Simon insists exists, and I have seen the poster, I can confirm. Me, I'm going to talk about 2 TV shows. I've got a brand new Australian youth comedy, or is it youth? I think it's youth. It's called He Had It Coming. And a new series based on the book by one Nicholas Cave. I think that's how it goes. That's the pen name? Yeah. It's called The Death of Bunny Munro. Did I say that right? The Death of Bunny Munro. The Beth of Danny No, I don't know. Folks, this is Screen Watching. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher! Mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
All right, folks, I'm joined here by Simon Foster. I'm the mealy-mouthed Dan Barrett. We have a heck of a show, and the only way for us to do that is for me to say, Simon, I trust you well, let's put it in a minute, and let's go straight to a clip for Wicked for Good.
Because happy is what happens.
Linda, the good.
When all your dreams come true.
It's the Wicked Witch.
Hello Dan Barrett, hello Screen Watchers everywhere. I know that you're very excited to hear about all things Wicked for Good. You're absolutely right, Dan. I think this is going to be, and not just myself, pre-ticket sales indicate that this is going to be one of the big films of the of Q4 2025, as they say in the biz. It is the second half of the Wicked series of films, of which there is one to date, and regular listeners will know that A, I love a good musical, and B, the first Wicked was one of my favourite films of 2024. Now, I should point out that I have not seen the stage production. I hadn't seen it before the first film, and I certainly haven't seen it before the second film. So I went into this one with no understanding of where the story was going to go and very little knowledge of just how disliked the second half of Wicked is amongst those who tread the boards. Now, when I came out of this film, I was thoroughly let down, thoroughly disappointed. It essentially does all the box ticking to wrap up the storylines that will launch so splendiferously in the first film. We have Galinda, the Good Witch, played by the wonderful Ariana Grande, and she's just as wonderful in this one, and El Fada, who has turned into the Wicked Witch of the West, played by Cynthia Erivo, as she was in the first film. And when these 2 actors are on screen together, the chemistry is beautiful. The tangible emotion that these 2 characters have shared and the journey they've been on is felt in all of their scenes. They're the best bits of this movie by a long, long way. But whereas the first film also had great drama, had great comedy, had at least 3 absolute show-stopping tunes, and was amazing to look at, it was full of spectacle, this second one is not. It feels very grounded, and by grounded I mean of the earth. It takes place on the yellow brick road and in the flower fields around, but it never soars. It never, and here I go, it never defies gravity, which the first one did effortlessly. I wanted to like this so much. I paid, and this you'll appreciate this. I actually paid my IMAX dollars to go and see this in 3D at the IMAX cinema. I came out with...
Wait, sorry, can I ask a question? When they asked you, so pay the money and they told you how much it was, did your jaw hit the ground and say, wait, movie tickets cost what?
My eye started to go up and down, like I got that twitchy thing in my eye. I couldn't believe how much people pay to go to the movies. And then I had to add in the all the lollies and the choc tops that I bought and the large popcorn.
Did you get a large frozen Coke?
No, I did not. But they all said, "Where's your mate who buys the frozen Coke?" And I said, "He wouldn't come to a movie like this." So I settled into my seat first day of release at the IMAX, and I waited for this film to find some kind of life, and it's just a bit of a chore. It feels like a very overextended Act 3. And that's not a good thing. It's something like 138 minutes. Nothing that was light and fluffy and effortless about the first film is here with this one. I guess the Wicked fans are still going to embrace it, but it is such a disappointing letdown after the first film was such a soaring triumph that I can't help but feel a little bit ripped off.
It feels like 2025's Kill Bill Volume 2.
A little bit. Are you excited about that mashup that they're putting out, the 4-hour version?
I'm very excited about going back to the cinema to watch the first half.
You know what? I've got a terrible thing to admit. I've never seen Kill Bill 2. In fact, I'm sitting here looking at my DVD shelf, and I'm looking at it right now, and I didn't see it at the movie, so I bought the DVD, and I've never watched the DVD. So,
you know what? Go and see it at the cinema as the 4-hour opus.
Yeah, I'm going to.
See how it goes. Look, just getting back to Wicked, I find it interesting that you're, the level of culture that you operate at, you're like, yeah, I never saw the stage play. Did you read the book, Simon?
It was a book.
From one Wicked's based on the book by Gregory Maguire.
Didn't know that. I read Wizard of Oz once when I was a kid, and I've seen that film many times over, which they definitely try to... they do kind of... what were we talking about off air before? The Catherine Bigelow thing. What's it called?
House of Dynamite.
House of Dynamite. That's on Netflix, which is a nuclear war thing, which is told from 3 different perspectives as the missiles come towards Chicago. In this one, with the Wizard of Oz...
I wish there was another movie which we could use as a comparison point for that kind of storytelling. But sorry, go on. Yeah.
Towards the end of Wicked for Good, the Wizard of Oz is happening. It's going on, like the actual storyline. There's a little bit of Dorothy, and there's a lot of the Tin Man, and there's some of the... And Coleman Domingo voices the line, although I don't actually remember him saying anything, but he had a credit at the end of the film, so maybe they cut him out. But the story of Wicked for Good is actually happening in the background of the Wizard of Oz, and that's a big bow to pull for this production to try to pull off. To try to make right, and it never really does. So, yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, look, I recall when the first one came out, there was a lot of conversation about the fact that the stage play notoriously has like that amazing set piece in the middle of it, and then people don't care for the rest of it. And people like the second film is not going to be particularly good, and it sounds like that's borne out.
I was worried because I sort of got my ticket, I booked it online, and then yesterday morning going into IMAX, I looked at Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it was at like 68%, whereas the first film is still sort of the mid-90s, if I remember. So I thought, oh no, what's happened here? And, it's right. It's about, half as good a film as the first one.
All right. Simon, I feel that you've started the podcast on a down note, so let's take it to a higher note, let's get a little bit peaky. Let's talk about the brand new-ish, it's been out now for 8 days, series on Netflix. It's called Last Samurai Standing. Terrible name, great show. Here's a clip.
Well, I'm Googling it right now, but no, I'm not at all across this one. Having been touring the countryside for the best part of the 2 months, some of these have slipped under my radar. So what's all this about, Dan?
Simon, take your headphones off right now. Go and watch the episodes. I'll sit here and wait for you.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right.
That was great.
So look, but seriously, Simon, check this out. You're really going to like this show. This is... Do you remember a couple of years ago, it was a very little seen Netflix series called Squid Game? Do you remember that?
Yes, I know of it. I remember it. I thought it was about cooking. I thought it was like one of those kitchen shows, but
Yeah, it is.
wasn't.
It's, what's the name? Iron Chef.
Oh, it's Chef all over again.
Yeah. Look, it's basically, when Squid Game came out, it's that thing that happens when there's a surprise success, and then suddenly they just commission a whole bunch of other things that are kind of like it.
Sure.
This is absolutely what's happened here. I'm 100% positive that as soon as Squid Game came out, Netflix executives are looking at the metrics as it's all starting to crank up, and they're like, holy crap, what else is there that we can suddenly green light and get happening to try to capitalize on something which is clearly working?
It's very dangerous, though. It doesn't always work.
It almost never works. Almost never. Anyway, what they seem to have found is what was then a fairly new book, which was in between. It was a book and then it got adapted into like a manga comic series as well. Now it's a TV series. The novel was called Aiku Sagami. And what the book and the subsequent TV series is about is it's set in the like late 19th century. It's when samurais were on the way out. So the government had outlawed the sort of legal sanction of samurais walking the lands. And so what happens when you're a samurai where your only skill is brutally murdering people? Often a lot of these guys are like, oh, I can't really afford to live anymore. And so they're living pretty miserable lives where they can't pull out their swords anymore. In fact, you're not allowed to carry a sword around. It's, you know, culturally, it's not necessarily permissible and, you know, economically not great for them. So what we have here is this also taking place at a time period where cholera is a bit of an issue.
Jeez, talk it up. Keep it light.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So our hero is a former samurai who is pretty good at the murdering. Pretty good. He's had a family. He's got his wife. He's got a couple of kids. His daughter dies in the opening minutes of this in a really sad way from cholera. Wow. His wife, not in great shape either. So he's like, hey, I need to get out there. I need to be able to earn some money and be able to bring this back. There's a newspaper that's been distributed across all of Japan, and it's saying there's an opportunity to win or earn. I forget what the phrasing is. I forget the amount of money as well, but it's an obscene amount of money. Get your butt over to, where is it? It's like Kyoto. I'm pretty sure. Get to Kyoto. They turn up. They're in like a very large, it's like a castle. Do they call it castle in Japan? Like, you know, a thing, a big building. They get rocked up, and there's like a couple of hundred samurai all standing around. And they're like, hey, what's this game? What's going on? And basically, this guy comes out, and he more or less sort of sets out the rules, and it's basically Squid Game. And so he says to the crowd, hey, look, if anyone wants to back out, you've got 30 seconds now to leave. Not a big deal. Anyone who stays is like in for this tournament. He hadn't told the rules to anyone at this stage what it is. Okay, so once like none of the samurais are like, well, I'm not leaving, there's a lot of money up for stakes. He's like, okay, this is a competition to the death. Okay, one person, the last samurai standing, will be the person to earn all this money. So basically what they have to do is leave this castle in Kyoto, make their way over to Tokyo, and the last person through gets the money. So what we have...
I just reviewed this last week. It's called The Running Man.
Simon, I don't want to hear you with your Western stories. I'm talking South Korea. I'm talking Japan here. This is its own thing.
Its own thing. All right. I mean, it sounds interesting. Yeah. And the stuff I'm looking at online here, it looks beautiful. Basically,
what you've got is 5 episodes, because it kind of ends with them leaving the castle at the end of the first one. 5 episodes of our main samurai character, a young girl that has found her way in there for need of also needing to make a whole bunch of money, again, to help her family who are suffering badly from cholera. And so she has no skills whatsoever. And so it's kind of a little bit lone wolf and cub to a certain degree, but he's got to get her from Kyoto to Tokyo. And so that's what we see over the course of 5 episodes.
There's no Tom Cruise in there?
No Tom Cruise, but there are a whole bunch of samurai, a whole bunch of really kinetic fight scenes. It is a gorgeous looking show. The action in this is just incredible. I'm really, really into this. Oh, the main guy in it, and Junichi Akata, He is the lead of the series, he's a producer on it, and he's the action choreographer.
Wow.
And so...
One-man band.
One-man band, and it's incredible. I really, really like this show.
All right.
The one other thing I want to talk about is there is a technology that exists, and I've been playing around with it for a while, and I've been waiting to see Netflix employ it. And I've employed it a couple of times over the last sort of year. But what it is, the main company that does this is a company called Flawless AI. And what they've been pushing is this idea that instead of watching a foreign language drama and watching it with the subtitles or with a really terrible dub over the top, what they can use is AI to get lip syncing happening.
Okay.
And then also to take the voice of the actor and incorporate that in. They haven't quite perfected it in terms of what's needed for this series, and I've got some questions out in the field where I'm trying to find out a bit more about it. But what they do have is AI lip syncing to what is a typical sort of Netflix style dub for one of these things.
Okay, this is
So
interesting.
it doesn't quite work. Like when you're watching it, like I could tell immediately something wasn't quite right. And I think the problem is that you're still hearing a vocal performance from the dub with lip syncing. And so that's kind of where you get that sort of slight uncanny valley aspect to it. But the technology is so almost there, and it's really interesting to see.
A couple of years back, I opened my sci-fi film festival with a movie called UFO Sweden, which was a Swedish alien adventure kind of thing. It was given exactly this treatment that you described ahead of its American release, where it was called Watch the Skies. And
yes, I saw the first 15 minutes of this the other day. I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah. Well, I loved UFO. It was actually in the movies when we were in Sweden, but obviously we couldn't see it because there's no English subtitles. But I made a note of it. I got it for my festival. I spoke to the directors of it, and then it was brought. Well, when it went to American audiences, it was done exactly that. They moved the lips and they redo the lips with AI. They all the characters still had a slight Swedish accent, like they're speaking in English, and that's what came out of their mouths. And it was very convincing. Like it got the story right, it got the script right, because I saw it a couple of times in Swedish and then watched it again in English. And it's on Amazon Prime. For anyone who's got Amazon Prime can have a look at it now. So yeah, I guess they're doing it a lot more.
Yeah, so the company that produced that movie is Flawless AI.
Yeah.
They don't say Flawless AI in the opening titles, they just call it Flawless. But it's that company, and they also did, if you've seen the movie Fall, which is that film about the two girls that climb the large telecommunications tower.
Yep.
So that film is produced as a, what do you call it? Example for this technology, and they weren't using it so much for foreign language dubs then, but what they were using that technology for is swear words. So they used the technology to take out all the swears so you could play that film on airplanes and, downgrade the...
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started this podcast, we didn't quite debate about it, but we had differing views on... I mean, we talked about this coming along and Netflix doing this for certain properties in certain territories and bringing Spanish films to English audiences and vice versa by using this dubbing thing. It seems to have just flowed into existence with nary a bell being tolled.
They're not doing it on all the shows.
No.
My understanding is they've only done a couple. I've done some looking around and I can only find people talking about it on a couple of programs. So it seems as though they're still very much in that testing phase of things. But it works very well in something like this, which is really action intensive.
Yes.
Okay. And I ethically don't really have a huge problem with it because as part of the argument that I'm sure you and I had, and I've also had this argument with other contemporaries of yours and mine, I don't have a problem with it because subtitles are never really sort of 100% authentic translations. They are adaptations as to what's being said. Yeah, that was the
point you made. Yeah.
So it's not as though there isn't already a certain level of artifice with translations appearing on screen as subtitles. As long as it's the original voice actor, as long as there's a certain amount of artistic sort of expression being told, I don't have a problem with the idea of losing it. But I do like the idea of what we saw in, and I can't think of the name of the film now, but what was previously UFO Sweden.
Yeah,
what's the name of the... Sorry, what is it?
Watch the Skies.
Watch the Skies. Watch the Skis. With Watch the Skies, they do maintain the accent, and I think that's a really sort of elegant trade-off.
Yeah, it's a great film too. You should watch it. All right, so Last Samurai Standing is on the Netflix right now, and it's only a 5-episode.
6-episode first season.
Okay.
And watch it through to the end, and you'll be like, yep, there's definitely a second season on its way.
Good to know. Bringing us to this part of the podcast that I know a lot of people are very fond of. I get a lot of calls and emails saying, forget about the opening, just go straight to what else have you been watching. So Dan, put that question to me, baby.
Simon, is there anything else you may have been watching?
Couple
Did
of
I get
things.
that right?
Yeah, that's good. They'll appreciate that. You're putting a lot of effort. Yes, you're right. A couple of weeks ago, a documentary called John Candy, I Like Me came straight from the Toronto Film Festival and landed on the Prime network. This is one of what has been a bit of a glut recently of going back to the stars of our youths of the 80s and 90s and kind of looking at them through different eyes and trying to interpret them. And I'm not a huge fan of them. So when this one came along, I was like, oh, they're going to do it to John Candy. So let's have a look at it. What is different about this one is that he's not in any way a controversial figure. He has no skeletons in his closet as a performer, as a man. He's adored by everybody who meets him, and everybody who is spoken to in this, and they speak to everybody in this, all his co-stars. They talk about him as being just the most genuine article and the sweetest, funniest, most talented man, a driven man, and a man not averse to speaking his mind and being strong-willed on set, especially when he started to, gain a bit of power in Hollywood. But generally a family man, a Canadian guy, as they refer to him in this one. But this one does delve a bit more deeply into what made him the comedian that he was in terms of his past life. A father who passed away very young. John Candy was 5 when his father passed away from a heart attack. It speaks to John Candy's son, who also had to deal with losing his father at a very young age. So this is a film that also looks at how Hollywood treated John Candy as the fat man, as the funny comic, and a couple of his early roles, in particular in Stripes, where he had to do the mud wrestling scene with the strippers when all the soldiers break out of the camp at night. They wanted him to take his shirt off and just go full John Candy in the mud with the strippers. He refused to do that. He hated doing that, and they questioned Bill Murray in this documentary as to how he felt about it. And Bill says, yeah, we regret doing that now. We can see John was upset and we shouldn't have forced it on him. And so there's some real insight, and there's some big names reflecting on this man who was always... I mean, I remember him most from Splash. I don't know if you have a favourite John Candy film.
Sorry, is that a question now? Look, really great question. Yeah, he's pretty good in Splash.
Yeah, I love Splash. Yeah, Splash. His little bit part in JFK is sort of touched on in this when he tried a bit of dramatic acting. He's quite open.
I never realised he was in that. I've only seen parts of JFK, and I've been thinking recently I need to go and check that out.
Great film, one of my favourite films.
Yeah.
And he's quite open. They're quite open about the fact that he found it tough to say no to his friends, which is why he turned up in some maybe underwritten and some minor works that didn't set the box office on fire. And he certainly had his fair share of those. But yeah, Splash. And this is a good documentary to watch. What I also watched, another documentary, is a film...
Sorry, I just spent some time. I was trying to find the name of the film Wagons East, which might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was the one that ultimately did him in. He was shooting that and was almost at the end of production when he passed away. He was having a very tough time on the set of that.
They have accused that movie of contributing to his death.
Yeah, absolutely. The other documentary that's in cinemas at the moment, in a few cinemas, is Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. It's from director Sepida Fassi. She set up a channel of communication to a young woman, a 25-year-old woman called Fatma Husana, who lived in the Palestinian neighbourhood of Jabalia. Over the course of a year, they spoke via video phone, and Farsi recorded these conversations back and forth, often as the bombing of Gaza and of Fatma's neighbourhood was going on. Over the course of the year, you see the impact on this vibrant, beautiful, intelligent young woman. She has an incredible screen presence in this film, and an incredible sort of on the ground interpretation of what's happening in Gaza and the attacks that her and her family and her neighbourhood underwent every day. This film was accepted into the Cannes Film Festival. The very last footage you see in this film is of the filmmaker telling Fatma that the film has gone to Cannes and how excited she is that she might be able to travel there. 3 days after the Cannes announcement, Fatma was killed and 6 members of her family were killed in an airstrike from Netanyahu's government. And it's a heartbreaking moment. This is an incredibly powerful, beautiful film that just such a sad coincidence might have happened and is captured here in this film is heartbreaking. So it's in a few cinemas now. It gives a great insight to what the conflict is like in Gaza and to the spirit of not only Fatima Hassana but also her people and her place. So do try and catch this one if you can.
Yeah, and if we can just swing back briefly to the John Candy doco, I Like Me, I think it's probably worthwhile mentioning who the director was because he did make a pretty good documentary about Tower Records a few years ago, but I don't know much beyond that.
The director is Colin Hanks, who son of Tom, who was featured very heavily in the documentary as well. That's the film.
Tom Hanks, I've heard of that. Wait, Colin Hanks, okay.
Yeah, that one, yeah. The thing is, this is very much made by people who want to maintain his integrity, like who want to keep the spirit and the goodness of John Candy alive. And that comes across in the documentary without it being a real hagiography, without it being just they do talk about some of the darker moments in his life. So both great documentaries. What else have you been watching? I've been talking for far too long.
I was going to say, I've heard a couple of interviews here and there with Colin Hanks, and he seems like a really good dude. So
yeah, he seems nice.
Yeah, and also, I like him as a screen presence. I don't know if that sort of reflected glow from his father because they look so alike, but I always really enjoy it when he turns up on my screen, and Orange County is particularly one of the films of his that I always quite liked.
The last thing I saw Colin Hanks in, he was the bad guy sheriff in the last Jason Statham film. Thank you.
Fantastic.
This is what I know. This is why you have me on this podcast, because of those sort of little nuggets of trivia. Anyway, do go
Absolutely.
on.
The only time I've not liked him is he appeared in a couple of episodes of Mad Men. And it's not that he puts in a bad performance. I just thought he was miscast in it. Why?
I thought that sort of chinless white sort of guy thing would be perfect for Mad Men.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel that he should have been if you're going to cast Colin Hanks as a bit of a stunt casty sort of thing, don't just make him as a humorless priest. Bring him in as an agency person. There were plenty of places for him to exist in it. But anyway, what else I've been watching? Great question. Very briefly, there's a new youth comedy on Stan called He Had It Coming. This is a show that is very squarely in the younger millennial Zoomer sort of realm. Basically, the premise is it's set at an Australian university, and the tensions that are going on there between the extreme feminists and then the sort of troublemaking sort of not all men, why don't we have our own days to celebrate, Women's Day sort of groups, all that sort of stuff's going on campus. Meanwhile, not meanwhile, but the sort of thing that sort of instigates the series is that you've got these 2 people that have kind of just met, very drunkenly commiserating their various sort of concerns in life. They are all yeah, screw men, let's, go and make a show of things. So they're both artists, they break into the shared office type thing that has all the art supplies in it. They take that to a statue in the middle of the quad section and go to town on the statue. So they graffiti it, they take to it with hammers and stuff, and they leave this man statue in some pretty poor sort of thing. The next morning, ultimately, there should be... Yeah, but the next morning there should be outrage saying, can you believe what people did to, desecrate the statue? But that's not what the big concern is. The big concern is the dead body that's been found at the bottom of the statue. Yeah, so these 2 girls...
On the scale, that is certainly the...
But the problem for these 2 girls is, wait a sec, we've just done this to the statue where the body's also been found. They're going to think that it's us. So over the course of the series, it's a bit of a whodunit. I don't think it's a brilliant whodunit by any means, but I think you've got a fairly charismatic cast in this one. It's It suffers from one of the things that really frustrates me about Australian productions, where you can't have an Australian series without some sort of international star that's been brought in.
Oh, you hate that.
And said international star is almost never anyone of whom is actually sort of big enough for anyone to care.
Who is it this time?
Okay.
Is it Hasselhoff? It's Hasselhoff, isn't it?
No. Well, first of all, Simon, this is for, as I said, younger, like the youngest of millennials, the sort of Zoomers.
Is it Kaylee Cuoco? It's Kaylee Cuoco, isn't it?
No, she's like an old lady for this audience. Geez, Simon. No,
Keep
it's a young British actress named Lydia West.
Don't know her.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing where I think that she has like some recognition around the place, but like she's not a huge star by any means. Why do we need to cast like someone internationally to do it? Like, yes, it kind of works that, you know, it's a British girl that's on campus, but like it's not like that's a sort of crazy concept. But at the same time, we don't really need that. Like, couldn't we just cast someone locally? But the other prominent female lead in it, her name is Natasha Lou Bordizzo.
Nice try.
Who I know her from, she was in the Netflix TV movie, The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sequel.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, so she was in that. And then also she was in a better than you'd think, but still not really great, Prime Video series called The Voyeurs, which was very loosely an erotic thriller, but I think there's like maybe some boobs at the beginning, and that's kind of about as far as the eroticism goes on it. It's got this really great sort of opening cheeky moment, and then the film never lives up to the bombacity of that sort of opening sequence.
This is the girl from Ahsoka.
Yeah, she's in
was in
that.
the
She's
Star
like
Wars
Sabine Wren.
Yeah,
but that was a
she
show I
is.
only saw like an hour of and gave up
Okay,
on
so
it.
that's where I know her from. So, okay, well,
Okay.
well that's good to know. All right.
Well, she's known. She's around the place. She's a Sydney-born actress.
Sydney gal.
Yeah, and like she's quite good in this. I kind of like her in things. Yeah.
Okay, so but this doesn't lean into any sort of, because I asked this because last night my better half and I watched After the Burn, which is the Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield thing, all set on a college campus where gender and accusations and privilege and all this sort of stuff converge, and there's terrible moments and horrible people doing terrible things to each other. And I'm wondering, does this new series that you mentioned, what's it called?
Gosh, why do you ask me these questions?
Does it lean into any of the
He had it coming.
Does it lean into any of the heavier sort of issues regarding society that are, or it's very much
It's all pretty.
done it?
It's all pretty surface. It's a slightly edgy comedy for a younger audience. So it's not that edgy ultimately. And if you've been around the traps a bit, you've kind of seen some of the stereotypes that you're going to find in this. And there's not a lot of surprises. But for a younger audience where, you know, they can watch something and take a bit of ownership over this, I think they're going to really find quite a bit in this. I think it's fine. I think comedically, like, it's okay. I found it charming enough, but not really enough where I wanted to watch more.
And what else have you been watching?
Was there anything else? Oh, yeah, sorry. I haven't, like, I can't even really sort of say that I've seen this in that I watched the first 15 minutes and just gave up
okay.
on it.
Oh, dear.
I just wasn't into it. But it's the brand new series, the something of Bunny Munro.
The Death of
Sorry,
Bunny
I moved away from
Munro.
my sheet. The Death of Bunny Munro.
Yep.
Basically, you've got Matt Smith playing a womanizer who, like, he's a pretty
surprise.
nasty kind of a guy. Yeah, he's a pretty nasty kind of a dude. He's a traveling salesman selling like women's makeup stuffs. Sleeping with a lot of women because he's just so damn charming, but he just comes across as super sleazy, which is probably fairly accurate to dudes like this. Yeah, I don't know. I found something very tonally off-putting about the show, and I don't have a problem with watching a TV show or a movie with unpleasant characters at the center of it.
No.
But there's something about the sound design of this, the cinematography, combined with like a really unpleasant character, where I just found it to be such a chore to watch, and it didn't help that it opened with one of the types of scenes that really just sort of frustrate me in movies and shows, which is a extended sequence of him driving along in an open top car, and he's like, you know, seeing all the people, like the women on the like beach as he's driving past, and like some of them are recognizing him as like a guy that's like, oh, you know, it's a guy.
Well, and what's playing? Is it West End Girls with the? Is it some sort of? There'll be some sort of song playing as he's there with his arm out the window, and it's some sort of. Yeah, I can see even from the title that is just. It's just too cute, that title, too affectatious. The Death of Bunny Munro. It's saying, look at me, and I'm like, screw you, man.
It's based on a Nick Cave book, and I don't know. I've never read a Nick Cave book. I'm sure that his books probably evoke a very similar vibe to some of his songs, and like I like him as a musical performer and artist, but I've never felt that I ever needed to watch his, screenplay movies or his
Proposition
literary
was
work.
good. The Guy Pearce Western.
Yeah, I just never felt the need to see it, and I couldn't think of the name of the film either. Yeah, but anyway, that's currently streaming now on Binge. He Had It Coming is on Stan. Last Samurai Standing is a Netflix production. You talked about John Candy, I Like Me. Find that one on Prime Video. And playing in the cinemas is Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. And then I forget the name of the movie. It was like Good for Wicked.
That'll do.
Yeah. And that's
for
playing
Wicked.
in your picture houses around the country.
Let me just point out that that big long title, "Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk,"
Great title, by the way.
It's a great title. It's how all. What am I trying to say here? It's when you want to go outdoors in an occupied territory and there's snipers all around you. You literally put your soul on your hand and walk outdoors because anything can happen and it can all disappear very quickly. So that's where the name comes from. Anyway, just a quick aside. All right, that wraps up another Screen Watching Podcast. You can get us on the Facebook at Screen Watching Podcast, on YouTube at Screen Watching. Email us at screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com and see some of my rantings over on the Screen Space, which is on Substack and also on its own website. But the Substack newsletter is definitely worth subscribing for. Dan, what do you do?
Always Be Watching. It's a newsletter. It's a way of life. You can find that one at alwaysbewatching.com. And in it, you'll find the interesting news stories that have, broken that week about TV and streaming, sometimes streaming movies, sometimes some video games, sometimes VR experiences, sometimes just, things that tickle me for whatever reason.
It's re-energized of late. I can tell you're enjoying writing it. You're doing a lot of research on it. It's a good read every single day. Well, that's not entirely true.
Well, let's be real about what it was. I was unemployed for about 2 weeks and I had a bit more time to spend on it.
Well, I wasn't going to say, but I'm glad you did. Yes, but nevertheless, it's a good read and full of information.
Yeah, but look, I found my way back to employment in the last week or so, and
it's back to cutting and pasting, and otherwise just...
I wouldn't say it's been cutting and pasting, but certainly I have spent at least 2 hours less on it every day than I was for a couple of weeks there.
You wouldn't know. It's a great read. You do amazing work.
Anyway, folks, this has been Screen Watching. We'll be back, next week, I guess, with more of this.
See you then.
Yeah. Should the mood strike. Folks, we'll see you then.